I see you found our little hiding spot in the universe. Don't get too comfortable. This is a place where you will find those with an experience that's out of this world, or possibly deep within your life. I welcome you to the Oracles with James Tyson. Lean forward and listen. We will pull you into a supernatural journey with guests from around the world, each one experiencing some of the most extraordinary phenomena this wee planet has to offer. Now, here are the Oracles with James Tyson.
Thank you, Liam, and thank you, listener, for tuning in to today's episode of the Oracles with James Tyson. It's me, James, and today I'm bringing in a friend of mine, Jim Kolisnyk. Now, Jim is a paranormal investigator. He's been doing this a long time. He's set up shop here on the lower left Canadian coast, just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. His team is called Vancouver Supernatural. But if you Google that, you'll get a lot of stuff, because for those of you who may or may not know, the TV series Supernatural is filmed here in Vancouver. So, yeah, there's a bit of a crossover there. Though Jim isn't part of the television show, he knows a lot of people in the film industry and gets into a lot of interesting locations. Like we talk about a studio up in North Vancouver here. And he got in there and was dealing with something. He gets invited. He and the team get invited to a number of different locations. We talk about a place called St. Mary's, which is a residential school. The front end of it is a Stolo Nation, Canadian First Nations. But their main offices are out in the front part of the building, but it is an old residential school. Not the 1800s residential school, because that had been razed to the ground through fire years ago, but this one was built way after that and out of commission back, I think in the 1980s it shut down. So we talk a little bit about that and the activity in there. We talk about some residential things. We talk about why he does it. He's with a group of investigators, and they basically just love to help people who are experiencing paranormal activities in their homes or their businesses. They are a non-profit, and they'll travel throughout British Columbia, and they'll dip down into Washington State in a pinch too. The group is located in Vancouver. Like, Vancouver is kind of it's a weird way of explaining it. It's like LA. LA is made of many, many little cities. Vancouver is the same thing. We call it the Lower Mainland, or some people now call it Metro Vancouver, which is a pain in the butt, and I think is a term brought in from Ontario to make us feel bigger or some stupid thing. But it's the Lower Mainland of British Columbia is literally, it's the lower part of the mainland here on the province of BC, and it's made up of 13 or so smaller communities, cities, one of which is Vancouver. The team's from all over the place, and they'll travel everywhere around here. If you do have a suspicion there is something going bang in the night that is something more than the raccoon in the ceiling, that's what Jim's team does. Again, this is Vancouver Supernatural. Their website's being tweaked right now, but you can join them, Vancouver Supernatural, on the Facebook. They actually have a thing on Instagram called the Cauldron 555. And they have an event venue that they invite people out on, and heck, you can get married there. You can go there. It's kind of a bewitching kind of location. I was talking to him after too. He's got a sweat lodge, so I'm going to hit him up for the sweat lodge coming up this spring, because it's hard to find somebody who knows what they're doing and actually putting on a good sweat. For those of you who don't know what that is, we don't even talk about it on the interview, but Google Sweat Lodge. It's kind of a cool thing. And I know as a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, we actually had a sweat lodge in our training academy in Regina, Saskatchewan. So it was part of our cross-cultural training there. So very, very cool thing if you can get off to have a sweat. He has those too. So if you're close to where we are here on the lower left Canadian coast, go over to Vancouver Supernatural on Facebook and send Jim Kolisnyk a message saying, hey, I'd be interested in coming out for a sweat. So please, that's kind of the cool thing. But we are going to talk about things like crossing people over. We're going to talk about some of the work that he does that helps charities like museums. They're, kind of hurting for money for upkeep and things like that. Obviously, a lot of museums are, I say obviously because you and I, listener, are kind of woo-woo people and we understand the ghost side of things. They're haunted. A lot of museums, if not all museums, will have activity in it. And he really helps out some of the smaller communities and gets a bit of an income injection by putting on public paranormal tours of these older buildings. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm going to go get him right now. It's Jim Kolisnyk from Vancouver Supernatural. Hello, Jim. How are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I am well here. We're both living out here on the lower left Canadian coast on a drizzly spring day, but everything seems to be good. It's always beautiful, drizzle or not. So that's what I say. It rains because we live in a rainforest and it keeps everything green. And that's what we like here, is the greenery. Yeah, you've been a part of Vancouver Supernatural. Well, you started Vancouver Supernatural. What was it you did before that got you interested in the paranormal?
I had, when I was a young kid, I was bopping around all over the place in a bit of a recession. So we were finding all these dives to live in, really, basically. So I lived in one house on Harris Road between Gladwin and the reserve there. And it was a very active house. We had two little boys that would show themselves all the time. We'd hear them, we'd get woken up and hear, balls bouncing down the stairwell that went up to the upstairs, and the boys would run down, grab the ball, run back up, drop it down again. For 20 minutes this went on, and that's the one that woke me up and go, what the heck is this? Because this just isn't. It scared us. We didn't open that door. We had to have somebody come in and open the door. We didn't want to go upstairs. But my brother and I heard this, and I learned about the paranormal there. And then I moved up to 100 Mile House and started Caribou Paranormal.
Okay, and
did a whole bunch of stuff.
And the place you were talking about before, Gladwin Road and things like that, that's just outside of a place called Chilliwack, British Columbia?
Yeah, it's just out of Abbotsford. It's kind of on the flat between Abbotsford and Matsqui.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a little bit further to the west than I was thinking. The Abbotsford area. Now, that's an old farm area, and for people who are listening to this from the other side of the planet, the lower mainland of British Columbia, the Fraser River comes down into the Pacific Ocean, and there's a lot of flats in that area that probably at one time was all river, but over the centuries it calmed down, and we have a river, and we had all these flats, and it was a really good farm area. And back in the 1800s, the settlers came out here and they were farming. But before that, there was the First Nations, or what people would call it, Canadian Indians, lived all in that area. And there are a lot of older properties out there, and obviously you guys ended up in one of them that was a little bit active. That's crazy. And then 100 Mile House, it literally is 100 miles up the road to kind of north central British Columbia, and that's were you kind of on the Gold Rush Trail up in 100 Mile House?
I'm not sure. It probably could be. That had the reserve there right up against the tracks, and Matsqui was probably about 3 or 4 blocks away. So I'd imagine it would be a trail to Vancouver. I can't see any other spot that it would have been on.
Yeah.
And so you could have had just about anything there. The two boys that were there were all I ever visualized was something right out of The Shining.
Oh, so they were young, like between 7 and 12, kind of?
Yeah, they were young. They were young, 2 young boys. We heard them giggling and playing at one time, but then the sound kind of went. We no longer really got sound, but you always knew they were there. It was all the massive cold. I learned about cold spots. I learned about just the paranoia and the feelings you get when they're watching. I still use those. Those are, what all ghost hunters really use is their natural instincts. Yeah,
your gut feeling.
Yeah, your gut feeling.
A question for you. Did you or your brother ever have to go to the hospital, Children's Hospital or anything when you were young?
No.
Okay.
I don't think ever.
The reason I ask that is a lot of times, because in my experience and in talking to a lot of people who do this stuff and some psychics, they say that like kids will be in a hospital and they'll die in the hospital. And the parents go home and everyone grieves. Well, the kid doesn't cross over because it's basically, the great grandmother comes through and says, "Hey, come on, Billy, let's go." And they're like, "Dude, I don't know who you are. Stranger danger. I'm staying for mom and dad." And well, mom and dad went home. And the kid is wandering around the hospital confused. And when another little kid comes to the hospital and is sick and their parents are doting over them and throwing a lot of love at them, when that kid finally leaves the hospital to go home, the ghost of the kid will go with them.
That's very possible.
And they will hang out, and they like the love and they like the family, and maybe they like the kid, and now that kid will have the invisible friend in the closet and hearing stuff. So I just wanted to check that off the box that, and maybe you guys brought them there yourselves as opposed to them being in the house. But most likely in that area, they were probably part of the land or probably the house itself when you guys met.
Yeah, this like recently, just actually last week, I've been trying to get like the house was torn down shortly after I left, and I've been there several times afterwards trying to pick something up in the field that it was on, where the house sat. And they're there, but you can't really, put your finger on it. And then I went into the old barn that used to be beside the house and talked to the residents that live there. And I walked in and it was like, holy crap, that thing, they're still here. They were in here. I felt them watching me at the top of the stairs. It's actually kind of creeping me out now. And I asked them if I can get in there, and I'm still working on it. So I'm really hoping that I can get in there again now. And, I'd like to... I don't know, talk to a few people and see if it's possible or safe to move them. Because when you offer love, I think that, or help, I'm not a big fan of sending off until I know exactly why they're there.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do is I should hook you up with Skeeter Wellhouse and talk to her on the phone.
Skeeter?
Yeah.
She's awesome.
She literally take a deep breath and show up in the barn and describe you what the inside looks like. And she's in Washington State, and then you will interview the kids through her, and she'll tell you while they're there, and then she'll if they're time to go home, they'll just walk right through her chest basically, because the quote unquote light is always there. They just have to focus, and off they go, which is kind of cool. So I'll hook you up with Skeeter, and you can have a chat with her about it, because she'll tell you why they're there and what they're up to. And I'm not as good as, I can't do the distance thing, but I mean, it's basically how I do it too. I walk into a building and I just basically meditate and float around. That is cool.
When did pick them all out.
When did you figure out you could do that?
I have certain things that you learn as you start getting more sensitive. Numbers started with me, and started with numbers, and then then you make up your own rules, and it just meditation and just going into constantly seeing the energy around you in these places that we investigate. So it's a study. It's an ongoing study, and eventually you just kind of pick it all up, and it just comes naturally. That is a switch I'd like to throw on. I really have to focus, and I'm still looking at things like from an outsider. It's hard to explain. If I'm in a location and I'm seeing something moving across a wall, I'm looking at it so detached that I'm not, it's way too hard to explain, but I understand what people like you do. You're almost within the energy itself, and you can, though you're outside of it, you can actually look at it and go, oh, this is, I can feel it. I feel it in my chest. I can feel it on my skin, and I can feel it in my heart that there's something here. For sure. I haven't got to that yet. I don't think, who knows, for me. That's cool. What you can do is, what I started doing it is, I heard a lady, Ginny Jones, long time ago. She's awesome. I still follow her. She's in Australia. She mentioned something about just basically spreading your wings around, and whatever is there, even if it is negative, you can turn it positive. Love is the most powerful emotion, and fear. So if you have both, you're pretty good.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's safe, that love and coming in with an open mind and not with a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, everything has to be so positive, because I think that's a big way that they see you, is just basically your energy, and you are what you present.
Yeah. When did this thing first happen to you? Like, obviously, when we talked about you and your brother in this house with the kids, is that when you first started to notice that you actually could tune into that?
No, that was just pure fear out of that one, and I couldn't even sleep in the house without my brother staying there. Like, if he went over to his girlfriend's house, I'm sleeping in my truck. None of my dogs, you can't pull them into the house. It was a very, very active house. I'm trying to duplicate that and pick up and remember certain little things that I can use for my studies now, like energy, how we can distribute it to bring out the most effective amount of energy without, overpowering it, because you have to still stay safe for your clients. You don't want to, start freaking them out with massive energy of spirit. So you have to kind of control it just to find out who they are. The energy itself, I started doing it afterwards as I got into it more. Like, I've investigated some pretty crazy places up in 100 Mile and through the Caribou.
Yeah.
And, fear is a big thing to get over.
And those places that you're talking about, the 100 Mile House and the Caribou, that part of British Columbia, the old kind of Gold Rush Trail, historic, lots of Canadian Indian, a lot of First Nations, a lot of settler activity, plus you've got a lot of people who worked in the logging industry, mining. It's a very, very high energy area to start with.
Yeah,
and here you are bouncing around up there, going into older buildings and finding stuff. What would you say is the most interesting location that you ran into up in the Caribou or 100 Mile House?
It would be the most active place would be the 108 Heritage Site. But having said that, there's a lot of active places up there. I mean, there's spirits everywhere along that trail. A lot of people died along that trail, and I think they just walk it. They continue to walk it. I don't know. It's just weird. And it changes all the time. Like, say, for instance, the 108. I mean, you can go in one day and pick up some spirits. You go in the next and pick up totally different spirits. There was that one girl up in Ken's room. Do you remember that one?
Oh, the little girl?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we got her saying hello, and we got her running. We had all our equipment on the ground in a circle, and she was running around the circle, touching them. It was just a euphoric feeling, knowing that there's a spirit running in a circle right beside you.
There was a location down in Port Moody, British Columbia, where there's an old train station that had been moved. I think it's the third location. Upstairs in there, same thing. There's a little girl giggling and running around. It is kind of a weird feeling, and to actually hear them giggle and hear them running and trying not to get overly excited and figure out what's going on. But in your location and for people who don't know where this is 108 Heritage Site is up 108 miles. Like we talked about 100 Mile House. This place is up just 8 miles out of 100 Mile House, and it's a number
shortly after 100 Mile House.
And it's a number of buildings that have been relocated right beside a lake. It's a very, very cool location. It's like a museum. It's a little heritage site where a lot of the older buildings have been brought there. It's one of those places that when you're out on a travel, you're out with the family, out going by, it's a great little place to drop into if you're out in that area. I found it when I was there, there's a lot of waves of different feelings you can get.
Oh, for sure. It's crazy.
It is interesting. We actually, Skeeter ended up crossing over somebody out of there too, who was being a bit of a jerk to people in one of the buildings. So she moved him on, and this was kind of funny. And this goes back to something that Skeeter and I talked about years ago. But this guy was actually if I get this right, he was Russian. And he was a Russian soldier who at one point came over to Vancouver, British Columbia, and worked his way up into the Caribou and was very, very regimented. But he tagged along up there. Was he Russian or American? Anyway, he tagged along with some tourist. And you know how a higher vibration human being like yourself, all of a sudden a lower vibration because they're dead, they like your energy and they'll hang out with you. Mm-hmm. Well, he jumped off the bus or whatever it was up in that area, and that's how he got there. So we had a long interview with this guy, the dead guy, before he crossed. But he was a bit of a jerk. If you came in saying, "Hey, is there a ghost here?" he'd be all over you. It's like he didn't like people picking on the other dead people. And if you look like you're picking on him, he'd either tell everybody else in there to be quiet, or he would start hurting you. So he moved on. But that was very interesting, that guy. But is very, very busy in there. And it was in like the old, there's almost like a 2-story log building. Mm-hmm. And
I think the original house that was put together.
I think it might have been. It would be to if you're standing out in front of the old house, the big kind of museum house.
Big red one, yeah.
Yeah, it would be over on the left.
Yeah.
And he was downstairs in that one. Yeah. So we moved him.
Well, there was a couple of, with me it's a little bit different. If there's something that is really negative, I've had a lot of psychics come in. I use a couple of them that I can trust, and they cleanse from the outside while we're inside, because basically I would send everyone in there running. They would just go for the doors. And I still don't know why. I don't know why. Sometimes it's hard to get any because people just run away from me. I don't know why. I just spread the room with love. I mean, maybe they're afraid of love. I don't know.
Or it's confusing to them.
Or confusing. I use it as my power. I use it as my power to,
Well, the other thing, too, is if you come in, like, you've got all these dead people hanging out and they see the living all the time. All of a sudden you get some living person showing up and saying, "Hey, I know you're here," and all the dead ones are going,
"I love you."
Oh,
and no matter what you are, it's hard for them to get mad at you.
And plus, they're all of a sudden like, "Crap, they know we're here."
Yeah, like for instance, a good example of this, and I have many of them. Are really good. We did the Kilby, and there was a gentleman there that was stabbed in the stomach, and in this one room. And I guess, gave him a couple of questions he didn't want to answer. And we got an EV, it's a swear word. He said, "F you, homo, F you, laddie." And it was the same voice. After this happened in the basement in the Kilby there, I went upstairs and sat by his bed that he apparently died at. Days and days he was laying there. So we talked for about an hour, just him and I upstairs. It was very, very cool. And at the end of it, I knew he was there listening, and we were talking. Well, I was doing most of the talking, but in the end, I got a really good EVP saying thank you.
And that's the thing is...
Show the love.
Yeah, show the love. Walk in, say, I really don't care who you are and what you're doing. I just came in to kind of give you a big spiritual hug here and find out what's up. Yeah. But if you come in there kicking doors and saying, "Hey, what the hell are you doing here?" and you have to leave, it's not going to work. Then you're just going to...
Yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of leaving. I did St. Mary's many years ago, and what's
St. Mary's?
St. Mary's is one of the residential schools that I've done, and that's up in Abbotsford, and it's a very active place. And there's priests there that did some unfortunate things to children, and I confronted him in the gymnasium for what he did. I was standing right in the middle of the gymnasium. There's balls, those balls that you throw at people, the big, soft, kind of big, round, red balls.
Yep.
They were all over the place throughout the gymnasium. And I ripped him for about half an hour for doing all those things, and he didn't touch me. And the group that I was with when I first came down here, they were coming, and they don't like, singularities going around, talking to the spirits. You have to have two people, which I get, but... I'm not a big fan of that. So I heard him coming, and I went out of the room, out of the gymnasium, and then there was the head guy, really good investigator, comes and stands exactly where I stood. Within a minute and a half, 2 minutes, his watch that has two clasps, I heard both the clasps break off, and his watch slammed against the ground. I said, "Oops, that wasn't me. I didn't do nothing."
Yeah, when I've been there too a few times, and I got in an argument. We had the digital recorders with the earphones in, and I was actually asking a question, and I can hear kids answer.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of kids in there, boy.
And we were trying to say, have you ever, you can leave if you'd like. And the psychic who was, we had the psychic there.
They don't want to go.
After. Yeah, well, there was a good nun and a good elder First Nations gentleman in spirit. They had crossed over and come back, and they were looking after the kids who hadn't crossed over.
Yeah.
And then the priest came through, and the priest was saying, don't listen to them. If you leave here, I'll tell God what you did. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, what? Like, you're going to tell God that the children did bad things to you? It's like, and that was holding the kids back. But there was something else with the bad priest kind of feeding him information. So we thought that was even way more negative. So we had to back off that. But we understood that there were protective beings of the children. But, there was that dark room
you're
downstairs.
talking about energy that goes back, that's imprinted on this land, that goes back who knows how long.
Yeah.
So they're even my land that I live on now, the energy from the residue that's on certain areas like St. Mary's is very powerful, and there is spirits there that are protecting those kids.
It was interesting over time on how I've learned a little bit more about what happens on a location like that and how long it takes those children to actually get comfortable enough to leave. It's not like you come in and say, okay, I am a witch or a psychic or whatever, and I'm going to cross everybody over. Now, a friend of mine does that. He cleared an entire castle in Scotland from the eastern U.S.
Permanently, or did he go back and redo it, or did
No, he had people. He had the dead cross over. So it's not like he cleared. It's not like smudging something where you push them all out and they wait outside till the smoke clears and they all come back in again. They actually crossed over. It wasn't moving them anywhere else, like on this plane. It was just...
How did he do it? Did he, if you offer energy and offer your energy up to give them to have enough energy to cross over, that's what I think anyways, but...
he does it. I didn't really get into it. Gregory Postman is the guy's name. He also channels beings. He's a fascinating guy and an author. Like when Skeeter does it, she actually will show up and they see a method of leaving within her. When they look at her, they see her as energy, and they just see that energy as something that they can move into, and then that is, God, I almost said portal. That is the method for them to leave. The light, we'll call it.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah. Like if you bring in something that, like say for instance, a religion or your own belief system, other than just the knowledge of the energy, I think you can jeopardize it. I think because you just don't know how that person passed. It could have been in the times, maybe they could have been a witch and burnt on a stake. They could have been, one of the children that were raped. They could be whatever, but they just don't like religion. So if you use it, like whatever religion you be, you just kind of got to be careful, I think.
Yeah.
Or just go back to the simple, this is energy and this is how you deal with it.
Yeah. And when we cross people over, you determine which of there's 4 reasons why people don't cross over. And if it is a fear of religion, if they think they've done something wrong, there's methodology used to, all you have to do is make them hesitate and rethink it. And usually 100% of the time, a friend of theirs will come through and say, no, they're telling the truth, you can leave. Like a trusted friend. We crossed a guy over who died in prison in Ocala Prison in Burnaby, British Columbia.
Oh, 1942. Is that still even standing?
No, it got torn down. But this guy was in a house a few miles away and terrorizing the place. But he died of natural causes in 1942. But he was Roman Catholic. He grew up in Quebec back in the 1800s, and he murdered somebody in a fight, killed somebody in a fight during Prohibition. So died of old age, 1942. Grumpy as hell, ends up in these people's houses. Another long story. But when we crossed him over, he actually said they don't like my kind there, talking about crossing over, because he thought he's going to go to hell. And we had explained to him, says, no, dude. And we always use the same thing for those kind of people. If Jesus died for your sins, why would you still be punished? Because if there's a religious spark in them using Jesus and dying for your sins, that all that makes them do is hesitate for that split second to go, what? And that's all you needed. And his cellmate came through and said, no, they're telling the truth. You can come.
Well,
So
it's
it
like
had
in
to
the
be
end, it's
trusted.
all the same energy, whether you present it with a religion or. But I mean, I'm just a little bit more careful when it comes to the religion part. But the energy, like you think of whatever it is that you believe in, you think of something positive and think of love. Well, you're talking the strongest energy that can be transferred, love. I mean, it is the strongest.
Yeah.
So if you offer that to that person and just open yourself up to them, they're weak. The longer you stay on that other side, the weaker you are, and they're just lost trying to find that energy. And then when somebody comes up and says, hey, I'll give you it to cross over, they take it. A lot of them take it. But I think that if you don't go across right away, I think that you get stuck, and that's what people do. If you don't take that first opportunity,
In my
but you
understanding,
can't
too,
come back. I've investigated several places where we have knowledge of somebody else being with them, like a family that takes them through the light, and they come back again.
Yeah.
I calculated it with my my studies, about 3 to 4 months it takes for them to finally move on, I think. And who knows where they go to when they move on. Either they come into another meat sack or they just go,
When you say it takes them about 3 months to move on, and what do you mean by that?
Well, this is just the studies. I'm not solidifying anything, but just in my studies, I find that the majority of them stick around for about 3 to 4 months.
Before they cross
Or
over?
until the person the reason that they're there is a little bit on the healed side, kind of. They're a little bit over it. I mean, can you imagine just sitting there watching your kids cry? You don't want to stay there and hug them or do whatever until they're kind of over it a little bit.
So what you mean by that person's hanging around for 3 months? So Bob dies and you've got his grandmother come through. Say, come on, you got to go. If Bob doesn't go, the grandmother hangs out for about 3 months.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
and just basically shows them the ropes. But if you don't go into the light, I think whoever it is, your family kind of helps you into the light. I think, anyways. You don't know, right? It's just an assumption. The light being, I don't know what the light is. Just, I think that the energy that we all are is a group of some sort. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of patches in my studies, but
Yeah,
you hope you find them.
We'll get this figured out right about the time we die. Actually, about an hour later. We'll figure this out. We're talking to Jim Kolisnyk. He is the leader and chief cook and bottle washer for Vancouver Supernatural here in Vancouver, British Columbia. Paranormal group that bounces around not only in the area a little bit to the east of Vancouver, British Columbia, off the coast, out into the valley that we talked about earlier, but up into the central part of British Columbia along the old Gold Rush Trail. Jim, we were talking about Skeeter. We crossed over a lady who was out not too far from where you live in a place called Chilliwack, British Columbia. She was occupying a room in a house there, but she died in the 1800s and she was Chinese. But when Skeeter was crossing her, all the other ones we crossed out of that farmhouse went to the quote unquote light. Skeeter hesitated and she said, I feel really weird. I'm wobbly. And then she said, oh, I'm standing on a boat in a river. So the lady crossed the river. That was how that lady who had been in her 80s, who died back in 1870 or whatever, when she crossed a river. So we started thinking that maybe when people cross, we all go to the same place. It's whatever our comfort zone is, whatever our belief system is how we move from point A to point B. We in the 21st century we always think about the light, but back in the day, in their belief systems, whatever it was, cross a river, go up a mountain, whatever, that's what they see to move on, and that is their comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for sure. If you close your eyes, I know this might sound kind of crazy, but say, for instance, you close your eyes and you were given the ability to picture energy moving or staying there or anything, and basically everything moving conducts a certain level of energy, and a river is massive energy, and that would light up the room. So that could have been taken as light, or it could have been a constant energy for this person that they just didn't need to go.
Or it comes right down even to maybe the religious belief is in our religion, we cross a river to go to heaven. But
Sure, I don't know
again,
about
the
that one,
river
but sure.
itself is an energy. And that's what I find too. And you probably find it too. If you're in a paranormal investigation near any water, even a railway track, we seem to find a lot more chatty or spirit, we'll call them entities. Hell, we'll call them ghosts. A lot more ghosts can draw from that and be a little more interactive with us.
Oh, for sure. Like we did a studio in North Van, like a movie set, and Paisley joined us on in the studio.
And Paisley's a psychic friend of ours, so just everyone was
She's awesome. She came on that one, and that was the one that we got a lot of good responses. We have a full body apparition of a lady that died of a drug overdose, and the lady that was in my group, she's the one that let us in, and she worked there, and she was best friends with this lady, so she knew her very well. When she'd passed, she is the one that took all the clothes off, like the film industry clothes, when she went into the ambulance, and she passed. So she knew exactly what she was wearing. We did the investigation on. Her name's Kathleen. She's in our in my group. It was her birthday, so we got a full body Actually, Kelly took the picture. Kelly Buckler. She's an incredible investigator. She took the picture of her friend, a crazy full body apparition of her walking with the same clothes that she wore when she died, and that was confirmed. For the longest time, we didn't realize that there was another creepy spirit in the shadow of a back door, behind the full body apparition picture that a group from England picked up. I gave them the picture, so they kind of blew some light through it and saw the other spirit in the back, which is very cool. So we got in one picture 2 spirits.
It's kind of funny too. Is that there's a television. I always say this, and I always crap on this TV show that's been on for about 10 years, and I don't think they've got a picture of a ghost yet.
Oh, really?
But the 3 of them, they're very popular.
Well, see, a lot of groups that I've noticed, they don't really focus on certain things. They'll just go in with a recorder and a K2 and whatever else that they have. It's good. Simple is always better, I say. But
keep it
when
simple.
when you're wanting to get a picture of apparition, those trail cams, they work good.
Yeah.
I use a laser setup with my cameras, so I'll have like a laser that shoots 100 feet down a room or a hallway, so anything crosses it and I get a picture. So doing stuff like that, you get way more pictures. And if you're a rookie starting out, go buy a decent digital camera and just don't stop pressing that button. Just take 100 pictures if you have to, because it's that one that you're going to get. Oh yeah,
and that's the best way to understand. It's actually, if you just take one picture down a hallway and look at it and there's something there, it's great to have it. But if you had a burst of like 3 or 4 and it wasn't there in the first 2, it's half there in the third one, it's all there in the fourth, and then all of a sudden disappears. That's a clue that you're taking a picture of something that is moving in and out.
Yeah. And over the time, you get to understand what certain lights do when they're infrared or full spectrum light is hitting them. Like you could get shadows from somebody way behind you, or they're taking a picture too, and now your shadow's in front of you.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating that we have the opportunity to come out and take these pictures, or at least try, and then sit around with a group saying, "Okay, this is the picture. What do you see?" And I go, "Oh crap!" Yeah. Kelly Buckler is the one who took your picture. Kelly and I worked on a couple of paranormal investigative teams, and I remember we were sitting in actually going back to St. Mary's, this residential school, and something actually walked down the hall and into the room, and we could hear it coming. She said, "I can hear it." And I said, "Yeah, I can hear it coming down the hall too." And then we both looked at the door, didn't see anything with our naked eye, but I had a camera going, just randomly clicking, and the way I can describe this thing would be about 9 feet tall, about 5 feet wide, all sparkles. And it came into the room, and of course it came through chunks of the room, like the side of it kind of came through, It was taller than the door, but it just came into the room, and it faded away when I got there, and we just looked at each other and it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But she's a ghost magnet too. Every so often you get.
She is a magnet, and so are you. When we did that investigation there up there, I got quite a bit of evidence. When you were around. I can't remember what it was, but I think we got a really good EVP when we were in that building with that where Agnes apparently lived.
Yeah,
that was creepy.
That was a very interesting location, that 108 mile historic site. Again, St. Mary's Residential School. Crazy. Unfortunately, and this is one of the biggest bitches I had about the paranormal team I was with, is that you would get all this evidence of the children and people in the building, and they wouldn't share it with the owners of the building. Well, that's your
traditional, how would you say it, the ghost hunter groupie people. They follow the ghost hunting methods of basically they're just a study. They're not helping. They just find out if there's spirits there or not.
Yeah, but
I like to take on I did do the group. Remember that when I was talking about St. Mary's, it was the group, a local group that follows the ghost hunters theories.
Yeah, the TAPS thing.
Yeah, the TAPS thing. And really, it's, when you're dealing with clients, they just want to know. They want help. They want to know how to deal with what's in their house, and they won't help them. They just there to determine if there's a spirit or not.
Yeah, and
which is kind of like really kind of sleazy almost, because you're going in trying to help them, and
It was way sleazy. There was a place in Fort Langley, outside of British Columbia here. Outside of Vancouver, an old fort. We were in a restaurant in the area. Tons of evidence, like full-on audio. I'm having a conversation back and forth. Buddy's got photographs of a guy coming out of a little closet pushing a hand truck, residual energy right through him. Another picture. The lady who owned the restaurant was in there with us. She wanted to know what was going on. They wouldn't even say, hey, come over, look at this picture. They never told them anything.
Very frustrating.
Anything. They didn't tell them anything. Yeah. After it was done, it was like, did you get anything? Yeah, well, it wasn't bad. Well, can I see? No. Well, like, what the are you doing in my property? I invited you here to help me because you have all the experience and all the gear. You come in, and now what you want to do, and going back to the residential school, you want to come back next week with a bunch of new people and show them. Well, how come I don't get to see? Well, because you're the client, blah, blah, I don't know. But you've turned this into everybody in the paranormal community can come and look at the ghosts here now. It's like, dude, it's not a circus. And that's the other thing. You can tell my energy's kind of getting up here. I don't like people using dead people as entertainment.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. You're going in with the wrong, with everything wrong. They're going to avoid you. They're going to sense that, and they're just going to go and leave and sit in some corner. You have to find them.
Oh, I had that. We did a documentary at the place in Vancouver, British Columbia, the Billy Bishop Legion. Really, really haunted. The lady who was president, the last president of the Legion itself, is an intuitive and could walk into a room and go, oh, look, there's a guy standing there and there's one over here and blah, blah. So she knew. So she invited us in. We did the documentary, and I went old school on one thing. I hung a piece of string up, which is, I say this a lot, so my listener knows this, but I hang a piece of string up. Make sure the air conditioning is not coming and going and no one's opening a door, and you say, can you move the string? Well, moving a piece of string or thread hanging, easy peasy, because it's just even static electricity energy can move it. So their energy can get that thing going, and it looks like it's spinning actually when it gets going. So I hung it across at the bar, and on the bar we had a number of digital recorders going. Had the camera on the whole bit. I said, can you touch the string? Nothing. But we listened to the digital recorder, very clearly hear a guy saying, don't touch the string.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, it's like he's telling all the other spirits in there going, don't play with these idiots.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's how it works. And, you have to take everything you can get. And that's really good evidence. We
touched a little bit on it, Jim. And again, we're talking to Jim Kolisnyk. He is the head of Vancouver Supernatural here in Vancouver, British Columbia. You go to his Facebook page. It is Vancouver Supernatural, and drop by there. Also, they've got on Instagram, The Cauldron 555. That's The Cauldron 555. We'll touch a little bit on that in a couple of minutes, Jim. But one of the things I do want you to kind of rehash a bit is what kind of gear that you take when you go into these places.
I have about 6 Canon cameras that I got converted to full spectrum, and I got a laser on each one of them, and those are pretty effective. And on my wherever I put one of those, you almost have to have conflicting evidence. So I have a full spectrum video camera on each stand with the laser, with the camera, so that really nothing can get by. If you have all areas covered, I use Zoom, all Zoom audio, never really let me down. Sony has has some great recorders as well. You don't have to be fancy when you do an investigation. The most amount of energy you find fun, or I find fun, is what you feel. Like just the feeling and overcoming the feelings. But it's nice to have tools too. I have a SLS camera, which basically is Stickman, for those that have seen one. I have FLIR cameras to pick up the heat pick up heat and stuff, and cold. Just a lot of all of those. If you want to do a location, just you can't have enough recorders around. I think that the distance for an EVP can change and alter with about 100 feet. 80 to 100 feet. Anywhere past that, if you have your recorders within that, it's very interesting to do, and it's a study that I've done several times, and just from having so many recorders, you could get on one recorder like, hello, and then 100 feet, you could just get, bleh. So you can't really pick it up, but you could still hear it loud. I haven't quite figured out why it does that yet. Like maybe the distance would be a sense of time, and it can kind of change it, like the sound. I don't know.
It could be. I've had the incident. You've probably had them too, where you've got 3 recorders sitting on the table, and 2 of them get something and 1 doesn't, or 1 gets something and 2 doesn't. It's like it is a sound anomaly on why one person's recorder is identical to the other person's recorder, but it only shows up on one.
Directed energy, like when you have directed energy, misdirected energy. Directed energy is I think them focusing on something. They have to be really close to really pick it up on a recorder.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I used to really tick me off, again, back in the traditional paranormal team, whatever traditional is, for this for this hobby, this thing we do. You'll get a blurp sound, and you get it back and you listen to it on the computer, you open it up and you, whatever program you use, and you listen to it and you crank the volume up and you go, I don't know what that is. But you slow it down 20% and all of a sudden that blurb is hello. And then I would say,
absolutely.
Hey, look, the guy said hello. And the traditionalist saying, no, you modified the sound. So why, what? Well, you modified it. I said, it's not evidence anymore.
Guys is they really should, they wouldn't know how to actually figure somebody out with their traditional evidence that they have, because they're just always waiting for it. The time difference between them and us, we haven't figured that out yet. And whatever goes through that veil gets distorted by time, I think. So to not slow something down to get evidence is kind of stupid, really. Because,
I agree.
You'll never really know who they are. You have to alter things. I mean, who cares if it's like traditional? Who cares? Nobody cares. I don't care what people think about my evidence. I think about my evidence, and what I pull out of it is what I think and what I want to believe. And it goes into my studies. If you have a group and you just keep caring about what other people think about your stuff, then you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I got really good communication back and forth. I just had to slow it down because it was coming through. It's like,
or speed it up even.
Yeah, and it was full-on sentences, but they said, well, no, you've modified it. And I said, look, I was a policeman a long enough time. I know how to collect evidence, and I can articulate exactly how many, and because of the computer program I use, I can say I slowed it 23%. And obviously you keep the original. Here's the original. Here's it slowed 23%. Well, I'm going to ignore what it says because you slowed it 23%. Well, how about you just go, yeah, all right. You're an idiot, and we'll move on.
Well, that's almost 60 to 80% of your evidence is slowing something down and trying to find out who they are. If you don't do that, you're not really an investigator. And if you think that you're trying to, if you're just trying to convince people that, there's a ghost here, most of the evidence it's not altered. It's what's a better word? It's just reconfigured for what is changing it. like that time thing.
Yeah, there's...
So that's just silly when you don't use that kind of evidence. Who cares if somebody from another group is, it's not good enough, whatever.
That's when you kind of look at that other group and just kind of shake your head and say, okay, you guys have fun, go out and do your thing, and don't tell your client what's going on. And it's just irritating as hell. So if anybody out there wants to go out and talk to a ghost, take a recorder out, head out to where you think a ghost, and pay attention to what Jim is like talking about. You'll feel it. You'll get goosebumps, your stomach will flip.
Oh, for sure.
You'll know it. The hair on the back of your neck stands up because that's a
good sensor,
all your spirit guides around you are going, hey dude, there's something else here, and we're gonna get we're gonna tell you. It is fun, but at the end of the day, Jim, why do you do it?
More to help people. I did. And I really enjoy helping kids. Like, I've done so many investigations where you walk in and the kids are getting screwed up by really bad dreams, or, you help the people get over what's in their house. You don't want to see them move. You don't want to see kids get attacked while they sleep. You don't want to see anyone really get hurt by a spirit. They're just confused. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know that they're affecting something. Or if they do, you get rid of them. But it's more about helping people. And just fulfilling my own studies.
And that's what it should be. We started off doing it because we were curious. Most of the time when you first start this off is that we come in because we have a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
And I've seen things, therefore I want to find out what's going on. After a while you start going, this is a little bit beyond just me. I'm starting to understand this, but now I can help somebody else and find out maybe something about it. And I know I've known you for years. You're a dad. It's all about kids.
And they're around me, and I know that, like, even Skeeter, like, she did me a thing on me a long time ago. And she said that there was several children hanging around me, and I picked them up. And I know exactly where I picked them up. I rebuilt a cemetery that was totally abused, the Woodland Cemetery in New Westminster. It was like a school right beside the asylum, that crazy Riverview there.
Yeah.
These kids, their headstones were all removed. I went around Vancouver searching for them all, and we found close to 1,000 of them. And I rebuilt the cemetery in my backyard. So I had like 1,000 heads of these headstones of children that have died. I've had them in my backyard, putting them into some really big concrete walls and setting them, each stone in the concrete wall. And doing this, I've met a whole bunch of kids. I don't know, maybe they liked me and stood around and stuck around. But when I go into a place, I could usually pick them out pretty quick. It's a different energy. It's like a sharp, more constant, like it's almost like a sharp poke. It's just a different type of energy as an adult. I can't. It's really hard to explain, but you just know that it's a child, and it's a search for me, really. I love the residential schools. I love trying to help. I've been to a lot of them throughout BC. It's very sad, and if you can, just give your energy for them to use and utilize to move on or do whatever, then it's just a good feeling.
And just for my listener to get this in perspective, there's what Jim is talking about. There's a place called Riverview, which was once called Essendale. It was a forensic psychiatric unit. Well, it was back in the day. It was called a nut house. It was for people with mental health issues. Down the road from that, 10 or 15 minutes, was this place that you had worked on.
Woodland Cemetery,
Woodlands, because Woodlands Cemetery was right beside Woodlands School. And again, this is a place for younger people who had mental health issues. And back in the day, before we had a label for the word autism or whatever else, or if you were just slow or overly dyslexic or you stuttered, you may end up going there. And of course, there's going to be sexual abuse, children murdered.
There was a lot of the nasty stuff going on there. Yeah.
And they were buried in this cemetery. The headstone,
they were buried.
They were buried standing up.
Yeah, the cemetery was so full that they were standing them up. Like when I was building the trails and my compactor, I was punching through the tops of their caskets, and it was horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying. If I didn't show all, that's where I learned how to do my love thing. And if you just spread it out, that's all you can do. And nothing really happened. I made more friends than I did anything. So.
Yeah, and you've got the father energy going.
That could, it could, everything.
Yeah, and you've got that, so you've got these children kind of gathered with you. The other thing too is I found, and again, this is over the last 10 years of talking to people who deal with dead people and cemeteries. If you find a headstone and you read the name of the headstone in your head or out loud, they show up. Like if it's this person is, even if they've crossed over and they're sitting on a beach in Fiji and all of a sudden the doorbell rings because you've read the name on the tombstone, they show up and go, who are you? Are you a relative? Like, what's going on? So that's, they start coming over. Now, if you've been on the land itself, you've experienced that energy from the trauma, the years and years of trauma, and now you're reading the name on the headstone. Yeah, they're going to tag along with you. They're going to think, oh, this guy's kind of cool. He's got good energy. I'm going to hang out. And they'll come and they'll go too, which you'll find. If you had somebody if you had Skeeter come back and say, the kid's still there, she goes, oh yeah, they are, but they're different.
Yeah, so I think that you pick things up. You pick things up along the way. Like I've been attacked so many times, and it's usually just by dreams. Like I I would take something, and I know I just took something because I can't talk, I can't do nothing. When a spirit, if I like to think that if I'm helping someone, I'm going to make the opportunity of taking that spirit out of the house with my own body. I don't know. I try, right, and that's what I believe that I could. It may sound stupid, but I just want to help that family. Yeah. So, and you just do whatever you can.
Jim, go through one of the attacks. What is the most common one for you?
Well, the most powerful one that I had was they controlled my life for a while. I had a lady and her children were getting attacked. They were all sleeping in the same bedroom. They were a beat up family. Just so they were weak through the nasty stuff that was happening in their lives with the divorce and stuff. So they were really getting attacked. And I walked into the house and we got a little girl that said hello, but I sensed more was there. It just wasn't her. And that was what I kind of came across the first tall dude, and he was standing beside the bed. I really couldn't go in the room. It was almost like it was pushing me out. I finally managed to go back in, and really didn't get anything of it until I got a phone call. We got the one EVP, and we knew that there was a strong presence in the house, but he wasn't talking. And I went back by myself because she was just horrified of the escalation of the attacks in the dreams. So I went out and bought him a massive tourmaline stone, and I put it by the child's bed, and I had all my kids hold it and give it good energy and help to do whatever. You just do whatever you think, right? I mean, whether it helps or not, I think collective energy is very strong, and it can be added to whatever, a stone especially. So I put the stone there, and I felt this thing just nail me, and I couldn't even remember her name. I was standing by the base of the door talking to her kids, and I couldn't even remember their names. I was just like, whoa, I could barely stand. I just said, I got to go, and I took it with me. And that night, it was the most horrifying dream I had in my life. I dreamt that my dog was, I love my dog, and they were getting killed. And the second dream was even worse. It was my child getting killed. It was a dream. I woke up sweating, screaming, crying. I grabbed my sage and a recorder. I turned it on, and I says, "You're getting the heck out of here." So all I got on the recorder was a growl, like a, and that was it. Shortly after, for some reason, I don't know why, but I bought a boat, and this boat was in Oregon, somewhere. somewhere in Oregon, right on the border of Washington, and on the way there, I got a flat tire right by the creepiest place ever. It was right by a place called Medicine Lake. They're brand new tires. What the heck? My tires popped. I pull over to Medicine Lake, and it was like a crossroads. And we fixed the tire. And when I got back in the car, whatever was attached to me was gone. So whatever that was convinced me to take him, and all the way there, because he wanted out at Medicine Lake. So that was an incredible experience for me.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and now I can figure out why that guy, that old Russian guy or whoever he was, ended up at 108 Mile historic site. It's like tagged along with somebody, some guy up, some tourist, and that's how he got there. It's the same as yours. It
almost has to be a full circle, though, if you really want to study them. Like if you actually can pick one out of what's happening in your life, they're very interesting, the full circles. If you're doing a lot of investigating, you have to pay attention to the full circles.
What do you mean by a full circle?
Something that brings you back to that place, and for another reason.
Oh, okay.
Like, why did you go back to that place? Why? Like, for instance, the 108 Heritage Site. I was investigating that place for several years, and there's the old man in the barn that we had a full body apparition of, and we identified him as the caretaker that still had family living around. I'm not going to mention any names, but he still had family that was hanging around. So I brought his family in, and we did an investigation, with just pure love, and we got an "I love you" from him. We got just lots of tears, really. Well, shortly after that, I was driving my truck by it. I worked regularly and driving by it, and my truck just died. Just right on the side of the road, right in front of the 108, just died. I couldn't get it going, and I towed it home, and I had to drive my wife's truck, which is a big excursion. And there was right after that happened, there was a Halloween bash, like it was a Halloween party. So I offered to help set up the Halloween party for the students there, and I went to the back of my property to pick up my big trailer to bring there to help them load it, and the steering box shaft sheared in half, leaving me with no steering, no nothing, as I'm driving on the rough road going to get my trailer in my yard.
Wow.
That truck drives my family to Vancouver on a very regular basis. He saved my family. Full circle being, I was going to do something for the ranch.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And I mean, if you can study the things that are happening around you, you find that there's a lot of things that you don't see. But if you're aware of them, it just helps your investigation, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And it helps you study.
Well, yeah, it's it is fascinating when you can look back, like in hindsight, and connect all those dots.
Yeah, it's connecting the dots.
Yeah, great. Again, if anybody else wants to follow Jim at his Facebook page, it's a private group, Vancouver Supernatural, and Jim Kolisnyk is also starting up a thing on Instagram, or the Instagram is up now. It's called the Cauldron 555. What is that, Jim?
It's just an idea that Lana and I had for doing weddings and venues, and the place that we live is very active. It's it's right on the Chilliwack River. There's a lot of history here. Like I've seen lights from the front of a stagecoach swinging back and forth, flying over a river. It's a very active place, and very active, and it's basically going to be a place where a spiritual retreat / wedding venue. The film industry hopefully comes here lots, and it's just giving back. We're gonna have a lot of things for kids here. Like I'm gonna have a Santa Claus that beats all Santa Clauses, and where people can come and kids can come. We do a lot of things for the handicapped kids and kids of child abuse with certain organizations. They come and bring their kids here, and it's a lot of fun. Just spreading love, really.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's absolutely perfect then. And do you still have your acreage is a river or a creek?
It's right on the Chilliwack River at the Allison Pool Campground. And we have a big cauldron we picked up at a movie set. It's a big styrofoam cauldron. Very cool.
That is cool. That is cool.
Yeah, very cool. It's going to be a really fun thing. And, the energy here is absolutely incredible. Like I had the old river coming through my property and it moved, but if you're sensitive, you go down into that river and it's like you could still feel it, the river flowing through your veins. And to meditate on there, and if you want to ground, well, you basically stick your feet in the sand as far as you can, and just let that water flow right through you. You're cleansed. I built a sweat lodge that I have crystals in, and in the sand. It's just incredibly spiritual. Oh, it's hard to explain. You have to actually come here and just.
And it's interesting too. Like you and I know. When you say, I automatically know when you say it's hard to explain, I know that's a good place, because it's one of those things that, obviously I'm not that articulate because I'm fumbling all over this statement, but we understand how things feel.
Yeah,
and
we know the energy around us. It's the study of the energy around us.
Yeah, and it is that feeling that makes these places special. Mm-hmm. And when you actually are lucky enough to live in a location like this, it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah,
that's kind of what I like about your property.
And it helps me out. It helps people out that come here. Like David Pills lives here. He's a well-known.
We'll say
healer.
Woo-woo. Hey? David Pills, he's one of us woo-woo people. It's like
he's a cool guy.
Yeah. I should I'll bug him and come on and talk about it too. I just want to shout out to a psychic friend of mine, Lori Wheeler, and who lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico, for joining Vancouver Supernatural while I'm talking to you about it. And also Tui Snyder from Texas, who's an author and an explorer of cemeteries, and very cool lady. Tui's just joined you at drop by Vancouver Supernatural since I've been chatting about it. And,
just the oh crap! Where was I going? I was thinking about like 3 different things at a time. But I mean, the energy here. If somebody wants to come here and bring their group, we're more than welcome to, and come and camp and stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's a cleansing. It helps.
Yeah, it is. It's a very, very interesting location. I haven't been out there. I came out and we had picked up apples. I had a load of apples a couple of years ago, which is kind of cool. Yeah. I used them for. I can't remember what I used. Oh, we cooked. We made like tons of food with them.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was good. Yeah, it's great location. Again, it's for those of us who live in the lower mainland of British Columbia, outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. If you're in Vancouver, it's about an hour drive in rush hour, as long as you're going against it. And it's like, hey, I really didn't miss rush. I was in rush hour on Friday. Like the other day, I was actually driving and went, oh crap, it's rush hour. I didn't miss this at all during the apocalypse. What the hell's going on? It's like people are back on the roads now.
I was an essential service. I had to still do stuff, but the amount of traffic that was gone in the last 2 to 3 weeks was very nice, but it's coming back now.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was very nice. You get to
I was
work all the way to Vancouver in like an hour.
Yeah, I was telling people to, go out, have a walk, breathe, get out. We haven't had air this clean in like 100 years.
Yeah,
because nothing has been going on here. Get out and have some fun. But it's.
Maybe it was like Mother Nature, saying, "Hey, give me a break."
Well, that's one of the controversial things I was saying in a couple of podcasts ago. It was like, yeah, well, I think the Earth needed a break, and how many people had to die before governments actually turned the switch off? So we needed X amount of people to die on the planet before they flipped the switch. So the people who had in their soul path said, okay, I will leave at this time. So yeah, I'll volunteer to die. It's a weird thing to say, but you understand the woo-woo side of things.
Well, we're all soldiers in protection of our families.
Yeah, and a bunch of people decided to leave, and that got the government to say, oh crap, we got to shut everything down, and the Earth went, okay, fine. So think if you know anyone who passed through the coronavirus, they're soldiers who died in a just war. It was for a much greater good, and it was just for that Earth to take that deep breath and go, okay, now let's see, can I do this without having to screw up again, or how far can we go? And hopefully it's going to take a while to pollute those canals over in Venice that are clear. You can see the bottom now, and the dolphins are coming back. Maybe it'll take a while before those things get all polluted again.
Well, it couldn't have been more well put. I mean, our governments all over the world should actually see the outcome and say, hey, look, why don't we just shut it down? Everybody take a week off. I'm sure that would be very welcomed.
Yeah, it's interesting now too. A lot of people aren't going back to work. I shouldn't say they're all going back to work, but they're working from home. They figure about 5 to 10% of the population may actually continue to work from home. So that might help a little bit anyway.
Sure.
But it's all going for a good cause. And you're a guy who lives and actually operates. You're in nature. You're actually a piece of the forest where you are. You live with it. You don't live against it.
If you ground in it all the time, you become a part of it. I mean, a lot of people, they use the earth as their ground, which is, obviously the best way to do it. But, if you can actually touch it and be there and sit by that big million-year-old stump or on it, you could soak it up.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're in a very spiritual location too. You're right on running water. You've got energy going through there. No, it's no wonder all the dead people come home with. We kind of welcome them too a little bit. Just whatever. Yeah, what kind of stuff do you do? Like what your team? If I had a ghost in my house, are you the kind of people I call and say, "Hey, I was wondering if you can come and tell me about my ghost," or do you have people you work with to cross people over? Do you work with a psychic? I would basically assess the situation first, find out what is there. With whatever means I have, and then go over everything with the crew and the homeowner. I find it very important that they're in there for the whole process, and
believe it or not, right at the end of the whole process, they're a heck of a lot more comfortable in that house. So to me, it's a win. And the spirit and them have some sort of knowledge of each other that, they can live a little bit more easier. But the whole thing is connecting the people that the living with the dead and sending off whatever doesn't want to be there. If it's a really, I've never really come across a harsh negative energy, but that picks you up and tosses you. But I do believe that there is spirits out there that have studied it for many years and can do certain things.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was with wasn't with her. I went to a location in California called the Preston School of Industry, or Preston Castle, and my friend Christina George, she walked up the front stairs of that location once, and she's a very, very connected, intuitive, and people standing behind her saw her come off the ground and come flying down the stairs again, get thrown down the stairs. But she was lifted up.
Well, hope she was okay, but that's cool. I find that very interesting. I'd love to be there.
Yeah, it was creepy. But it's an interesting place, and it's one of those places, just like the residential school, where Preston School of Industry, the Preston Castle, is a location in California that was built because back in the 1800s or so, if you were a 12-year-old boy and you stole a horse and you got caught, you went to San Quentin or Folsom Prison with the big guys, with adults. So California was a little bit ahead of its time and said, you know what, that's not going to work. So what they did is they built a prison for kids. And in the prison, they had leather work, carpentry, and you were trained in a trade. So when you came out of jail from stealing the horse, there you were. Now, the Preston School was also had a doctor's facility, and it had a little surgery area and a hospital. Well, that ended up being the only medical center for all the rural area around there, the farms. And back in the day, it's right on, and that is Gold Rush area. It's outside of Sacramento, California, a little bit west, a little bit southwest. So that was the hospital. So if you're a mom in town or out on the farm and you're going to have your baby, and you're having complications, you might go there to have the baby, and you might die there, and the baby might die there. So there were people coming into the building from the outside, also dying in the building, along with the kids who were dying there. And there's some talk about some of them being murdered. Like you had a murderous little 15-year-old kid who fell down and scraped his leg or something, goes up to the infirmary and mysteriously dies, where they were actually just euthanized. So there's that story about that place. But the place is like jam-packed full of dead people. There was a kid, I think a 14, 15-year-old kid, who was shot in the back trying to escape. How
do you shoot a kid? Like, seriously?
Yeah, well, they said the guard was tried. He had two different trials, and they found him. They couldn't convict him because he said it was a warning shot. But he just fired it low.
Wow.
So anyway, that kid is still haunting
and
the place.
Probably rightfully pissed off. So
yeah. And when I was there, they were like, you could look down a hallway and I saw a guy peek his head out of the door and duck back in. And we walked up to the door, and it was completely boarded up. So I thought it might have been somebody else in the building because we were there for a paranormal convention. And it's like, oh, somebody must be ahead of us. And the guy peeked out and ducked back in and went up and looked. And the door was completely nailed shut. There's no way. And later, Skeeter, our psychic, one of the psychics I was with, said, oh, yeah, he's one of the guys that used to work here. He's an admin guy. And he heard us coming down the hall, and he peeked his head out to see where we were and went back in. So, damn. But it was very, very haunted location. Incredible. The brick is made of old red brick, and that brick was actually manufactured at Folsom Prison in California, and then
with their own sweat and blood. So,
yep.
Wow. Yeah,
that energy.
Serious residual.
Yeah, and it's on top of really sparkly kind of land. It's that kind of land with a high quartz content in it, a lot of solar loading from the sun. So there's a lot of energy the dead can pick up on to help us. And we had a young kid walk around with us and kind of take us on a tour, a dead person. And some other kid. Oh, I brought a car magazine with a bunch of cars, hot rods from the 50s, and motorcycles, and another one, a World War II. It was a Time magazine or Life or something. It was something to do with World War II. And D-Day, so it was around that time. So anyway, I laid those out on a table, and I guess the room just got filled with kids wanting to go look. And these kids are anywhere from 10 to 17, 16, 17. But they liked, I brought a girly magazine and like a swimsuit edition magazine. I brought the car one and a World War II one, and they were giddy that I brought all these books and laid them out.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so I had all these kids showing up. But the other thing, too, is we weren't allowed to cross them over because it was said that there was a woman, a nurse, came to us and said, I'd like to leave. And we mentioned it to the lady who was running the thing, who freaking lost her poop on us. How dare you come in here and try to cross people? It's like, no, we told you this lady came to us. And she just couldn't get it through her head that the lady had come to us and asked to leave. And she said there is a system in place here. They are leaving when it's time for them to leave.
Oh, that's for sure. I totally believe in that.
Yeah,
that's why you have to study a place first before you go in. If you just go in just swinging, you're gonna, and that's why they probably don't encourage it either, because people do just go in swinging. Yeah. And without properly knowing, or they're not really, they don't know what they're doing. Like if you present the energy, that spirit's going to take it. But if you don't know how to distribute it, you're going to have spirits from all angles coming at you wanting to go. And now what are you going to do? You can't give all that energy away. It's tough. So what are you going to do? You're going to make them angry.
Yeah.
The sad part of doing an investigation and my studies is if you do a cleansing, it has to be select. Otherwise, you have all your other investigations afterwards. The only EVPs you're gonna get are help me. It's just stupid how many help me's you get after you do a cleanse.
Well, that's in anything. You'll get a psychic will come through, and let's say we're going to clean your house, and the psychic's remotely going to come in.
Yeah. Well, they just invited a whole whack more into your house.
Every time that psychic shows up, in our case, Skeeter, it's like she says, okay, there's 4 people from the neighborhood just showed up. I've told them to wait outside because they know she's coming. Huh. And she says, okay, you guys all have to stay. I cleared one of my friend's houses out. I cleared his house out. Skeeter showed up. We crossed. We had interaction with the male spirit that was in the house. No problem.
Yep.
And then she said, okay, these other ones are all gathering now, so let's deal with them. And we dealt with everybody in the neighborhood came through. We had Indo-Canadian lady from the turn of the century was giddy. Oh. And she was telling she goes, yeah, everybody else, come on. And it's like, dude, how many dead people you got in your house? Well, he only had the one guy until Skeeter showed up, and then the neighborhood ghost showed up.
That's what happens. You have to be careful and don't broadcast it. If you're sending somebody, just quietly send them. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but...
Oh, no, it totally does. I was on the Queen Mary last year, and the guy who woke me up in the middle of the night, the only reason he woke me up was that he knew that I had the connection to get him out of there.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the energy that they get stuck, because the longer they're here, all they need is that little boost of energy just to cross, and that's how. And you have to offer it. I think. I don't know if they could just take it from you, but if you offer it,
I can't do it myself. We did a whole podcast on Skeeter crossing him over, identified him, what his name was.
Neither can I. I get either David to come in and do it, so it's done right. I don't like I don't like ruining things. I'll do simple things. If it's not jeopardizing a family in a location, but I'm gonna if it's a family in a location, I'll get somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, well, you're getting good at it. Like,
Okay.
yeah, you're getting good at it. So
Yeah, but
eventually,
it's still a thing that I'm still learning. And if you don't know what you're doing, man, you can make a
it's like work. If somebody hires you to build a wall, I can build a wall. Yeah, while you're here, do you know how to change a gutter? Yeah, I know how to change a gutter, but that's not what I do.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know a guy who can do that. I could do it, but I know a guy who does that. So, you kind of default to your trade, your comfort.
And there's a lot of responsibility there, too. I mean, some of these groups go in, they don't know what the heck they're doing, and they just aggravate or do something that now the people have a real problem. And, that one that I was talking about that attacked me, there's a local lady shaman, a native lady. I don't know her name, but she was there prior to me, prior to our group going in there. And she had to leave. She couldn't move it. But it was just, I got it out of there. And ever since then, I don't know, it was a couple bad dreams and, a long trip to Washington or Portland, but the whole process was enjoyable in the end because the spirit's no longer there.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a victory.
Were you ever when you were down in Portland, did you ever go to the Shanghai tunnels?
No, I didn't. It was just a little town, tiny little thing right on a border, right by a lake or right by the Snake River.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember that.
Oh, that's when you were like, yeah, all right.
That's where I picked up the jet boat.
Picked up the boat, yeah. Oh, you got a jet boat?
I had a jet boat.
I had a jet boat, yeah.
They're expensive, and to run one, it wasn't getting used, so I just got a small one now. It just you can take it out more and have fun with the kids.
Well, it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. You know what? I want to thank you for dropping by. It's been a while since we had a chat, and
it was a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and down in the future, I'm doing some like haunted golden coming up this year. Crap, that is so much fun. I welcome anybody that wants to come on that one. I mean, the whole town opens up, and that's what I'm kind of focusing on, is going into these little towns and just bringing the town together, and everybody, all the haunted places you just get, your crew to go into. It's just a lot of fun. We're doing haunted golden coming up, and we're doing haunted Gibsons coming up as well. That one we got the Boot Hill Cemetery, we got the Boot Hill Ranch, Molly's Reach. We got a whole bunch of cool places down there for that one. So you're more than welcome to come and on any of those with us. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, what I should do is when I hit, I'll hit up my buddy Jason Mills of Mills Picture Studios, who does the documentaries, and we'll awesome. Get him to tag along and film a documentary.
Oh, that would be just incredible.
So
it's just nice to give back.
Oh yeah,
and that's how you do it, is with a really good video everybody can share, and just bring
and Gibson's is a hoot. I love it. I like Molly's Reach, and again, for the Canadians who know anything about the TV series The Beachcombers, that's Molly's Reach. It's still there.
Molly's Reach,
but it's a very, very funky little town. I was in a place. There's a bunch of little shops just the other side of Molly's Reach, going north, right around the water there. And I was in a dress shop or something there with my ex, and there's a woman walked in and disappeared through walked through the racks, and I went, okay, that's interesting.
Well, that whole building, that whole set of buildings there was once an old man's house.
Wow.
That maybe you got his wife or something.
Yeah, this lady was she looked like she was from the 60s.
Yeah.
And she would be in her 50s or something, and she had kind of high hair. That's the only reason I remember. She had really high hair, and it's kind of drew my attention, and then she disappeared, and I thought, oh, that's kind of creepy. Yeah. So who knows well, we got where she was.
Morgue too that we're sleeping in.
Shut up! Really? Yeah. You're going to sleep in the morgue?
Yeah,
that's
it's a
cool.
bed and breakfast now. It's a big old heritage house, and we're getting the upstairs suite. So
that is cool.
Very interesting weekend that would be.
That would be cool. And what weekend is that?
We're still working out the golden and the dates, because everything got changed because of the COVID stuff. So,
damn apocalypse.
My venues, I help all the heritage sites. A lot of the heritage sites we have, fundraisers for them. We're a nonprofit, so I like to just give back. And we did. Everything is all about donation.
Good.
But yeah,
That's
we're just working
cool.
out the dates and stuff. Everything is changing.
One of the places I'd love to, if we could only raise enough money to actually fix it, but it'd be millions and millions, is the old Maritime Museum, which was the original courthouse in Victoria, which is all shut down now. But it is crazy haunted.
I did Vancouver, the Vancouver courthouse, the one right in the middle of it's the
museum now.
Yeah, it's
the art gallery,
the art museum.
Yeah,
or art thing there.
Yeah,
and yeah, we did that. Whoa, that's a crazy place. We went right down into the gutters of Vancouver.
That is cool.
That was an interesting investigation.
Well, next time you do that, call me. We'll bring my film crew. We'll do because Jason's always out to do documentaries, and it's it's a lot of fun, and he shows up with everybody, and
if you need a good crew, we got lots of equipment.
Excellent. All right, sir. We've been talking to Jim Kolisnyk. He is the head of Vancouver Supernatural here in Vancouver, British Columbia. Also, go check him out on Facebook, please. Vancouver Supernatural. Also, The Cauldron 555 on Instagram, and it's something that they've started out on their property here, just east of Vancouver. And if you want to go out and experience that and camp out and maybe get married, that would be kind of cool. So again, thanks very much, Jim, for dropping by.
Oh, thoroughly enjoy it, James. It's a lot of fun.
Watching you while you sleep all alone.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. And hey. Let's be careful out there.
Over the snow, what are those voices? They sing as they go. What are those voices? Look up for the mountain. Wake up, somebody hide, somebody better hide on through the hill like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. We are after you, dead or alive. We are out to get you, dead or alive. And forget your thoughts. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done. Throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man that after now. Run through the hill like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. Dead or alive, we are out to get you, dead or alive. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done. Throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man they're after. No!